So, Mesolithic 2, Baikal Lake hunter-gatherer, DA245 is the identifier, Irkutsk Oblast, Russia. A match 0.22% DNA. So what does it tell us about this sample? The DA245 sample comes from a Baikal hunter-gatherer man from the early Neolithic period whose remains were excavated at the Shamanka archaeological site on a small peninsula reaching into the southwestern part of Lake Baikal between the two small towns Sludyanka and Kultuk. The estimated age of his skeleton remains, together with 11 other samples from the same cemetery, is between 7,200 and 6,200 years old. DNA was extracted from tooth samples. His mitochondrial DNA haplogroup is G for golf 2A1, while his Y chromosome is N for November 1C2. He belonged to the Kitoi culture that flourished between 8,800 and 6,900 years ago in the western area of Lake Baikal. Besides blades and scrapers, they used fishhooks and net sinkers. They covered burial pits with red ochre and buried their dead with grave goods. They created large formal cemeteries. Fishing was the central element of subsistence and probably led to social differentiation dominated by men. I can't speak today. The distribution of fish resources was likely uneven in comparison with later periods. Their overall health status was worse. The human remains at the Shamanka cemetery were associated in most cases with animal remains, such as brown bears, dogs, and head elements from birds of prey, musk deer, and fox mandibles. Some animal origin elements were probably parts of garments worn by the deceased. For example, marmot and red deer incisors and wild boar canine pendants. The Baikal, I don't know how to say that, sorry, hunter-gatherers originated from an ancient East Asian population that also was a partial ancestor of the Han Chinese. The ancient North Eurasians and ancient East Asians diverged from a common ancestor around 40,000 years ago, soon after anatomically modern humans arrived in Eurasia. Though DA245 predates the region's massive societal shifts, the Shamanka 2 site tells a cinematic story of prehistoric life. These people were highly mobile, river-boating hunter-gatherers. They heavily exploited the lake's unique bounty, including systematic spring hunting of Baikal seals for meat, blubber, and fur. The mystery of the graves, cemeteries like Shamanka 2, long puzzled archaeologists due to a disproportionate number of graves containing children, teenagers, and entire families buried close together. The ancient plague discovery, breakthrough ancient DNA analysis on teeth from these cemeteries revealed a shocking culprit. The plague, Yersinia pestis. Genomic data proved that highly lethal, virulent strains of the plague were causing devastating outbreaks among these small, isolated hunter-gatherer families as early as 5,500 years ago. This discovery fundamentally overturned the medical theory that the plague required crowded, agrarian cities to mutate into a deadly killer. So how do I connect with this sample? So to understand the DA245's mitochondrial DNA, the mtDNA haplogroup G2A1 connects with J1C3. We have to look at the massive global family tree of maternal lineages. The direct answer is that they are incredibly distant cousins. They do not share a recent common ancestor. Instead, they sit on completely opposite sides of the human maternal tree, representing a deep geographic split between East Eurasia G2E1 and West Eurasia J1C3 that occurred tens of thousands of years ago. The root connection, macro haplogroup L3. Every single person outside of Africa carries mitochondrial DNA that traces back to a single maternal lineage known as L3, which mutated in Africa roughly 60 to 70,000 years ago. When humans migrated out of Africa, L3 split into two highly successful branches, daughter branches, M for mother and N for November. This is where the paths of G2A1 and J1C3 permanently parted. So the split to M and N, G came from the M sister and J came from the N sister, NRJTJ. From the M for mother, M, G for golf, G2, G2A1. The likelihood is this one could possibly be from my father's genetics. I don't have my dad's DNA. I don't have the Y chromosome, and he hasn't done a test. And so Genome Link, who I do this through, does the test autosomal, which means it's taken in your whole of who you are. And some of that's your father, some of it's your mother. So while some are matching directly down that line, some I'm like, this is a bit distant. So I'm like, is that the father line? So I don't know how I'm going to work that out. Answers on a postcard. So next up on my ancient matches, Mesolithic 2 still, Ukrainian Neolithic female. ID I1732. Can't pronounce that name. Ukraine. I match 0.19%, closer to the sample than 85.48% of other Genome Link users.